Hello, I'm Dr. Antonio Di Costa from BJ Varia Children's Hospital, Parel. And I'd like to begin by thanking you all for inviting us to your prestigious conference so that we can present this study, Clinical and Investigative Profile in COVID-19 related MISC. So we've done this study during the initial half of the presentation, and there's a lot of studies in the adult as well as the pediatric population, but the data comparing the cardio-radiologic and lab parameters to the actual clinical course of the patient seems to be lacking. So that's what we intended to look at through our study. We do know that PIMS is fatal in less than 2% of the cases with 2 presentations, and there's really good outcomes if you recognize the condition early. Heart failure is definitely secondary due to myocyte damage, and the other presentations are ventricular dysfunction, coronary artery dilatation, and arrhythmias. We noticed that in severe cases, there's cardiogenic shock, which will require fluid resuscitation and inotropic support, and most of these end up requiring mechanical ventilation. So coming to our study. So BJ Varia Children's Hospital is a tertiary multi-specialty referral center for children. So the single center study done during the initial of the pandemic between March and December 2020. We had 4 months of retrospective cases and 6 months of prospective. A sample size of 75 with the children between the age group of 1 month to 18 years who were diagnosed based on PIMS WHO criteria. So like I said, our primary objectives were to study the clinical and lab profile, including 2D echo and imaging results, and then to compare with the severity of presentation and the outcome in these children. We didn't have any children less than 1 month of age, and we excluded the children who are asymptomatic but COVID-19 positive. In our outcome parameters, we've paid special attention to COVID RT-PCR and antibody status. We've also done inflammatory markers like CBC, ESR, LDH, and myocyte damage markers like CPK, CPK-MB. Ferritin, D-dimer, and fibrinogen were done in most of our patients. And where the patient could afford, we've also done IL-6 and anti-pro-BNP. We've noted the dose and duration of medications required like inotropes and the drugs we've used like IVIG steroids and low molecular weight heparin, and including the need for mechanical ventilation. And I'd also like to note here that none of our patients required ECMO, and we did have, unfortunately, 1 mortality during the study period. We had 75 patients, 45 of which were males with a mean age of 6 years. And an interesting finding is that in the antibody positive group, there's higher levels of CPK and CPK-MB compared to the RT-PCR positive group, most probably reflecting more of myocyte damage. Whereas in the RT-PCR positive group, we've got more of inflammatory markers like ESR, ferritin, and D-dimer compared to the antibody group. And also in the RT-PCR group, you've got more of hypotension, almost 30% of them. And in the antibody group, you've got more of coronary dilatation. So we went ahead and started wondering whether the hypotension was secondary to maybe the inflammatory markers and systemic inflammation and shock, or was it primarily due to some cardiac involvement? So we compared the CPK-MB and the hypotension, which you can see to your right in that graph, and almost 46% have raised CPK-MB. Like I said, 30% of them were hypotensive. So most probably this is some myocyte involvement rather than the systemic inflammation, the shock which I'm talking about. We've used more steroids compared to IVIG, and more than 75% of them required Clexane. We had one that unfortunately within the first 24 hours of presentation, she came with RT-PCR positivity and thrombocytopenia, raised inflammatory markers, and she also had coronaries dilated. We did give her the first dose of IVIG and steroids, including Clexane, but unfortunately she passed away. So coming to the discussion, you're going to have low ejection fraction in almost 45% of the cases, which is similar to the other studies. And unlike the other studies, we've used more of steroid than IVIG. Mechanical ventilation, almost 30% of them required, and fever is definitely the predominant symptom. More than 85% will come to you with fever. Death is still less than 2%, or 1.3% in our case. The others had 1.7% and 1.6%. One thing which we couldn't explain was the children who presented with KD-like symptoms clinically and who were less than 5 years of age, how many of these would have presented to us as KD, either case whether there was COVID or not? So we are not sure whether coronavirus led to KD in these children or whether they were actually through KDs who will have presented either case. So that's something to ponder about. So our limitations are that this was an exploratory research in the first wave of the COVID pandemic when there were no uniform management protocols, and financial constraint definitely dictated the investigations and the treatment we provided to these children. So the single center study, and like I said, incidence of true Kawasaki disease could have been overlooked due to the overlapping presentation. But to conclude, 2D echo definitely proves that antibody positivity is more associated with KD-like disease, while acute COVID RT-PCR positive cases presented more with myocarditis-like features. But at the same time, cardiac-specific blood markers were more elevated in the antibody-positive cases. Definitely, timely recognition and early therapy is important to reduce mortality. I'd like to thank you all for your most patient listening. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.